with the beautiful Lotus Lindley. She is a friend of mine, and we actually started first by stalking each other's posts and both resonated with each other. So that's how we were drawn together, and we're kind of in each other's communities here in Oklahoma. So I just want to read a little bit about her so you have a little flavor of what we are about to enter into. Lotus is a Wayshower, Lightworker, and author. She assists the Awakening and Ascension process as a Shakti-Kundalini Embodiment guide, multi-dimensional healer. She channels light language activations and supports those who feel called to deepen their experiential wisdom through embodying light, mentorship, and yoga of the divine feminine. Lotus offers practical guidance and multi-dimensional methods to assist your sacred awakening journey. May your path deepen and your heart bloom as you remember and embody the divine radiance that is you. Okay, so let me just make sure everything's working here. I'm going to actually check the broadcast really quickly. Yeah, we're here. Awesome. Okay, so Lotus, what all do you want to share with the people today?
Oh, goodness. There's so many things to choose from.
Yeah, I guess we can make it that general, but we've talked a little bit about what is happening right now in the earth, and I'm interested to know how your view of that is, what you feel is happening spiritually, and how we can best facilitate that within ourselves. Because I know we're going through a lot of physical changes, but I know there's a lot of spiritual ramifications. And so what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so from my perspective, we're definitely going through a collective awakening of humanity, and not just of humanity, but also really all beings, including the planet itself. From the ascension perspective, that's sort of the way that that I hold it, is that we're just in this quickened evolutionary process. And from my experience, any awakening that is like a deep awakening, it comes with a lot of discomfort and pain, both physically, emotionally, and mentally. So I think that we're all kind of getting our lower chakras stirred up quite a bit, in particular the lower chakras. And it's part and parcel with what has to happen, even though, you know, there can be a myriad of ways that it can take place, for sure. And this just so happens to be the way that big capital L life and all the players in the game have kind of coalesced to bring this forth.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, and I think that's an aspect of our spirituality that unless we've really surrendered and given ourselves over to it, we don't understand that aspect of it, that actually walking a spiritual path means you are facing the deep, dark shadow, the deep, dark stuff in our life. And for me, that actually has brought me a lot of solace to be able to embrace that. Because then when things like this happen, we don't get so sideswiped. It's almost like you just have a bird's eye view of knowing, well, we are going through this collectively. We are needing something to be dug out collectively. So would you say that, do you feel similar to that?
I do, definitely. I think, and I'm not going to remember the quote, but I love that quote by Adyashanti, where he talks about, you know, the awakening is a destructive process. It strips away everything that, you know, that we've known and thought to be true. And I think exactly what you said, you know, there's not a lot, it hasn't been the norm that the majority of people dive into the deep surrender process for a number of reasons. But I think that everybody who has done that and surrendered deeply and sort of walked through the fire is prepared, like you said, for these types of events, and understand, understand the elements that go into it. And it's an initiation. I think this is a big collective initiation process. It's a maturation process as well. As we move through some of these painful, frightening places, everybody's got their own experience of it. I think that if we do it mindfully, or even just have the awareness, even if it's, not very mindful and certainly not graceful, but if we kind of have the awareness and can come through the other end, I think that there's a great maturity that we will see within the collective as well.
Definitely. It really is. I see it as crossing over from a fear-based mentality to trust.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever we choose that path, where, and what the path to me is knowing that God is in the light and God is in the dark. And so everything that is coming into my life, everything that I'm experiencing, I don't need to rebuke it or push it away or fear it. I just need to know there's something that's needing to help me to grow, help me to mature. And I'm glad we're touching on this, because this is such a huge aspect, I think, like you said, to take us into a more mature place, and from that place, rather than when something happens, we're just left, flailing our arms like, what's happening? Woe is me, and just, and that really is the message. I mean, I come from a Christian background, so I have all these Bible stories to, pull from. And there's all these stories in there in the Old Testament, especially, where there's all these people, woe is me, whoa. And I feel that those stories are showing us and telling us how to transition to one that is trusting, and that knows that the divine is coming through everything. It is in everything. It is you. It's all things. So I love this. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and it's sometimes we have to experience something on a grand scale because we need a big wake-up call.
I totally agree. And and the faith and trust, fortunately or unfortunately, I think it's always a process of deepening. And sometimes, we have to be put out in the middle of the lake, so to speak, without the lifeboat, to to have that faith and trust. Sometimes it can be done in small ways, but sometimes it's done in the big ways. And I think for a lot of people, this is a bigger way of, okay, if I stop fighting this, can I stop and just go, okay, here I am. And it's not an easy thing to do, for sure, right?
That's why it does take practice. It takes awareness.
Yep.
By us just being aware that, that little glimmer, that little shimmer of possibility, well, maybe all will be well. Maybe all be taken care of. And then trusting that and letting that spark grow and grow. And that's what happens, because every time I have let go, everything falls into place for me. It really is the resistance to what we are experiencing causes suffering. It's actually our response to the stimulus that causes the suffering, I feel. And I think it was Oprah that said, if God comes to you with a little whisper at first, and if you don't hear the whisper, it's going to become a louder voice until your doors in your house is falling down to try to get your attention. So if we can start to learn to first, and it's really becoming sensitive to those shifts and changes, and I'm starting to feel like I'm getting maybe more awareness earlier on for things now. It kind of starts to steer my ship in the direction of peace much sooner.
Yeah. It's that alignment, right? I have this meme that says it's not about control, it's about aligning.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, I feel like the quarantine is that invitation for people in the slowing down. It's where my experience has been: the slower and more quiet that I become, the more sensitized I am. But the more that I am out and going and distracted and my energy is all pulling out of me,
Yeah.
the less sensitive I am. And so I feel like this is an opportunity for people to really dial in. And even if it's not, long stretches, but even the meditation or just spending time getting more quiet, doing things more slowly, we can start honing in on that still small voice that's always there.
Yes. Knowing it's always there to guide us down the
Yeah.
best possible route for us. And
Yep.
it's such a joy to have the experience of being in the midst of chaos and
Mm-hmm.
choosing to go anyways and choosing to trust anyways. That is what I feel like, the Course of Miracles talks about, is what a miracle is. It's the
Mm-hmm.
miracle of of having that synchronicity. I know Abraham Hicks talks about that too. The synchronicities that begin to happen in that realm of trust and letting go and surrender. It's
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
Lucy, you beautiful woman just joined us.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, I think it's just a very rich area. And I like what you said about being able to choose your experience, and even though things, we're all having our own sets of challenges, but the last few years for me has really been this powerful shift in deeply understanding the power that I have to choose. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to be uncomfortable sometimes, or maybe even in pain, but exactly what you were saying. What is my relationship going to be with that? Can I step back? Can I embrace it and integrate it in the way that needs to be, and still recognize that peace is inherent within me always? Joy is inherent within me always.
Yes.
They're always there because they're states of being. They're not emotions. They're frequencies that are connected to our divinity, and they're
Yeah.
always there under the surface. But how do we, you know, it's like tapping into it, knowing we can tap into it, and then practicing tapping into it, even when things are going good, so that when things go bad,
Yeah.
we have it to turn to.
Yes. Learning how to abide in that place.
Yeah,
It's a dance.
it
And none of
is.
us are perfect, and none of us are
Right.
perfect. We can't, put pressure on ourselves to always respond perfectly. And when we don't, the best thing to do is forgive yourself and continue on, move on, and
Yes.
try it again next time. And yeah, I really feel that if we could do this on a collective level, we would
Hmm.
be a different world. I mean, if you think about it, this is our responses to what we experience really is at the root of all the suffering and if we can just take a step back. And I think that is what's happening right now. We are moving into a new era, a new age that is going to look a lot different, and we're not going to be. Um, I don't know. I just have a lot of hope and feel that I've seen that world spiritually in my mind's eye, in my vision. I've seen
Hmm.
and I've felt it. Maybe I should say I feel it more than I see it, but I feel what it feels like, and it feels really good.
Yes, and I think that more and more people are getting little glimpses. I don't know, Sharla, you're breaking up a little bit. I don't know if there's anything that is
You're
different,
breaking
but
up a little bit
y-
too.
y- am I green?
Everything's fine right now. I don't know.
Okay.
Let me
Okay.
let me just get out of some of these things here. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Am I still on the camera?
Your picture is all, there you are. There you are. Now I see you.
Okay. Free up a little bit of our internet space there.
Okay. I think that a lot more people are sensing and even getting small visuals of what we have an opportunity to step into, whether we call that new earth, whether we call that, like, I think there are a lot of different words for it. I think the common term now is new earth, that is connected within the ascension communities. But I've definitely gotten glimpses of it in meditation as well. And when they first started appearing, I was recognizing, oh, this is new earth, because I tend to be one of those. I mean, I'm open to most things, but until I experience something very directly, I I hold it. Okay, well, we'll see when I get there. And now that I've started getting these glimpses, and usually they come in meditation, I'm starting to realize, okay, I think that this is really where we're having the opportunities to choose to journey towards.
Yeah.
And maybe not the full collective, unless the full collective was to choose and be able to eventually, probably. But even the pockets of collectives, right? Because there are so many different collectives.
Yes. And as we start to trust that part of ourselves that is in tune with the unseen and the other realms and the other dimensions, I mean, it's a beautiful thing that science is now coming out and proving and validating this unseen dimensional world.
Right,
and
right.
and I really feel, as we start to connect more and we don't depend just on this physicality to tell us who we are, but we are learning who we are, because I believe that's really who we are. And it's why it's so persistent, and it's why we move through the suffering, we move through these things in order to wake that part of us up and see the part of us that is and the whole of us is more like it is unconditional love and peace. Like you were saying, these things are just who we are. It's not something we have to try to be. And that's what's so beautiful about when we're going through dark times, that if we do choose to let go, it will always be there. And that's what we can trust in knowing this place in us is always going to be there. Always. And that's how we learn to start trusting it. The more we let go, oh, it's still there. It's still there. It never left me. I don't even have to do anything to try to gain it or try to step into it or try to be it. I just am it.
Right. And I think that, meditation is sort of the easiest way for many people to tap into that and experience that reality, that truth, even if it's just for a few minutes.
Yes.
That starts to let us know that there is something else. And I remember it was probably, I don't know, 2013, I think it was. I had bronchitis, which I usually get often, and we were living in LA, and it was like our second summer there, and that's, the pollution was just horrible. And it was probably like midway through the whole, however long I was down, and I remembered having this experience. Usually when I go into getting sick, I feel pretty positive about it for a while. I know things are clearing. I usually go on like amazing journeys, and, other levels start coming up to the surface. So I use any, illness that I get as an opportunity to really be conscious about everything that's moving through.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't distract myself a lot. I just like lay in bed and, be. And at one point, I was really starting to get a little tired of it. It's like, okay, I'm done having fun now and I want to feel better. And I was laying in bed one day, just like feeling so aggravated. And I was feeling, sore from coughing. And all of a sudden, the part of me that was feeling aggravated and sore from coughing began to recognize that there was this very quiet, joyful, almost giggling coming up from inside. And it was this crazy experience of recognizing for the first time, like this inkling of, I'm having a multidimensional experience. I'm having this experience of an aspect of me or a part of me or that being that was always joyful becoming very surface. And that joy stayed pretty consistent off and on through the rest of the time that I was sick. And after that awareness, it has, that simultaneous experience has been able to be accessed through a myriad of other experiences. So it was
Yes,
very fascinating.
I love it. There's a
Yeah,
meditation that I really enjoy doing. Have you heard of Muji?
I haven't.
Muji. Ooh, you should check him out. He's got this meditation online that I've done several times, and I've led it several times just because it's so impactful to me. But it's excuse me.
Tickle.
But it is, he leads you to a house where the source, the truth of you abides, and you walk up to it and you come up to the door, and then he says, now you, in order to walk in here, you have to leave everything at the door. You have to leave all the identities, all the roles that you play in life, all your preconceived ideas, all your belief systems, all your stuff, all your bad feelings, all your good feelings, everything. You leave it. And then he's like, and it'll be there when you come back. You can pick it back up again, And it's an incredible practice to do this, because it gets you down to that, once you walk in, once you're yes, okay, I'm going to step in without all this. I'm just going to leave it there for this moment. You find that it feels like it's the oneness, it's the unified field, it's the thing that cannot be defined within you, the thing that cannot be named within you. It is this beautiful, powerful, all-knowing, all peace, all love place. And that's, I think, what we're learning as we move into meditation, as we learn to let go. Sometimes the trials come that leads us to that quiet place, because that's the only thing we can do to step out of our misery. But as we learn to cultivate it every day and not just expect a situation to take us there, but to take ourselves there every day, meet in that place every day. That is a life-changing practice right there that will connect you to the truth.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
It's beautiful. I'll have to send it to you.
Yeah, please do. Please do.
I will.
Yeah, I think it is the practice piece, the practice is so important. I mean, the practice, so many practices, right? Not just in meditation, for me, I was talking the other night on a meditation call that I did about, one of my ongoing practices right now is, how do I keep breathing and slow my movements down, slow my speech down, because I tend to be, so that's like my ongoing practice in my day-to-day life. And that's one of the hardest practices, I've got to say.
Yeah.
And yet, the more that I do it right now, the more it's becoming not quite the new norm, but I can see where just the practice of managing my energy in that way is creating a whole new way of being for myself.
Yeah. It is
And
where it's birthed.
yeah,
Yeah. It has to be birthed there.
yeah.
And if we think about it, when we get into our minds and get into our thoughts of worry and stress and fear, I mean, those lead nowhere. They don't lead us anywhere.
They don't really solve anything.
No, they don't solve anything. They don't enlighten anything. It's
Mm-hmm.
always when we let go, I'll choose
Right.
that other path. I love the analogy, and it's kind of in the realm of the esoteric knowledge of the scripture, but the birth of Christ, the story of the birth of Christ is really speaking of, when Joseph and Mary, they went to the inn to try to find a place to birth Jesus, birth Christ.
Mm-hmm.
But there was no availability there. They couldn't do it there. They had to go to the cave or the wherever it was, the secret, humble place, the quiet place is where Christ is born within us. Is where that Christ
Mm-hmm.
consciousness starts to be enlightened within us. It cannot be born in the inn. It can't be
Mm-hmm.
born in
I love that. Yeah.
the busyness and where there's a bunch of noise and we're listening to all kinds of different things happening and there's rustle and bustle. It's not born there. It really is born in this secret,
Yeah.
humble place where
Yeah.
you surrender and let go and you allow it to be right there. And then the wisdom comes. The three wise men comes. That's where the wisdom is given to us.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
gifts are given to us.
Well, I think that that's part of why so many people, when they go through any awakening, you know, processes that come unexpectedly, it's when something quote unquote bad has happened, where they're taken out of their life. They're restricted from their life, whether it's an accident, whether it's an illness, where it always seems fairly dramatic. I know that's how it was for me when I got vertigo, and adrenal fatigue, and literally was put on the couch. And that was when my Kundalini awakening started. And I was on the couch for 3 months that emptied out so much of my stories and my fears and my security issues and how am I going to work? How am I going to pay for my rent? All of those things rushed up to the surface. And after probably the first month or so was when I didn't even care anymore. By the end of 3 months, like I was just like I wasn't hardly talking. I wasn't really interacting with anyone. I went into that humble, silent space, that spaciousness for almost that first year of the awakening process. And but then I did get to come back out, like you were saying, eventually, and sort of pick up whatever I wanted to, or even what I didn't really want to. But personality was back.
Right? Right?
Yeah, but at least I knew that I could leave it again at some point if I chose. Um, but it is in that silence again, in that stopping point. Amazing
Yes.
things happen there.
Yeah. That's why this time is so wonderful. It can be
Mhm.
so wonderful. And I know a lot of people are going through losing a lot and I
Yeah.
sympathize for sure. But there's, I think, let it be assigned to you, let it be a course correction.
Hmm.
And if start to focus there rather than focusing on, oh, this is so bad, this is so horrible, why playing the victim, why is this happening to me, you know, there must be something wrong with me, or must whatever that might be. Instead of focusing there, shifting our focus to, this is a course correction for my life, I need this change, and let go and trust.
And to recognize, I think that all of the fears that come up, you know, I think that we had talked about this before. There's so many different realities that we're all experiencing based on our own programming that is still locked in. And so the more that I think that, and I've worked with clients with this a lot over this period, the more that we can recognize that whatever is being triggered with us is already within us. Because if it weren't there, we wouldn't be having that particular fear or, you know, or sorrow or grief. So it's really the external that's just showing us what we need to address inside. And this is the perfect time because it's pushing all of these buttons, and the buttons are saying, come inside. It's in here.
Yes,
right? Like,
everything.
how do I address this? And, you know, if we don't know how to address it, then how do we find help in addressing it so that we're free from it? So that even if we have to take a course of action, it's not coming from fear. It's coming from just practicality. It's coming from, you know, oh, okay, I guess this is where things have fallen now. How do I move forward just based on what makes sense, rather than having that driving, disempowering force of fear that I think just, you know, is so challenging for people. It's really,
and I think
it's hard.
It is. And I think that action bit is very key, because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about that if I slow down and if I let go, and if I'm not taking action, if I'm not doing my busyness, my busy self, then nothing's going to get done. I mean, this is the belief system. Nothing's going to get done. Everything's going to fall apart. And that is the construct that keeps us in the programming, like you were talking about. That
absolutely.
In itself, a program that this one way of doing things is the only way that's going to bear fruit in my life or bring manifestation in my life. And so that's a big one, because that's our society, and that really is what's being touched on right now, is that busyness and slowing it down. And so if we can learn this new way, and what I have totally seen in my own life is really the busyness slows us down, because you get busy with things that you don't need to be busy with.
It's so true, right?
And tapping and really getting in alignment, tuning in to what are the things that resonate with my soul. Where is that spot, that place that I can flow with? And we got to let go of so many voices in our heads that say, well, that's not good enough, or that's not going to do it. That's not. And we have to let go of the outcomes, because that a lot of times is driving our thoughts to do certain things. Is, well, I want the outcome to look like this, when most of the time there's an even better state of being that is calling us to be living in.
And I think that it's, you know, what you said is important. And because I don't think that people necessarily, some people do definitely, and we're more and more of us are becoming aware, what does the programming really mean? You know, like how deeply we're programmed and deeply conditioned. And we see it running through our physiology at times like this. The knee-jerk reactions, the need to cling to whatever has been, which is trying to crumble as we're moving through, you know, ideally a higher experience that's trying to call us forward and knock on our door. But I think the more clear that we all get that we're all programmed in some ways, but we're all going to have a bit different programs as well. And that conditioning, as long as it goes unnoticed, it has control over us. And so how do we really peel that away? And, that's where we have to ask questions, not only of ourselves, but of the bigger picture. I mean, we have to be asking questions of the bigger picture that's the most prominent in all the different ways.
Yes. Question and surrender.
Yeah.
Not because I think we can sometimes question and then be skeptical of everything,
Yeah.
But as we question with a surrendering heart, it leads us there, leads us to where we need to go. And I think it's the programming that you're talking about is really can also be given so many different terms, people call that, the devil, call it the ego, may call it all these different things. The programming is touch a little bit on that, on how you would explain the programming.
So I think for me, there are a lot of the ways. The conditioning and the programming that we get from family, from our culture, from religion, from, government, from our education system, all of that has levels of programs in it, and it's just the way that we're conditioned to believe and perceive life as we experience it. And then I also believe that there are the programs that are a little bit more less definable, that are deeply interwoven. Like one of my favorite ones to talk about, or my favorite ones to work with, is the program that we have for our addiction to pain and suffering. Humanity is deeply conditioned towards pain and suffering. And what this does is it keeps our frequency down. It keeps us in fear. It keeps us contracted. And it keeps us from really being able to expand and come into the heart. And, and that's not something that, well, where did this come from exactly? Well, it's part of the conditioning, but I think it also has deeper roots, because as long as we're addicted to the pain and suffering, and we're also going to be very desensitized to faith and trust. We're going to be desensitized to the higher states of our own being. And, we see it everywhere. We have all been, the hurt so good love songs, the intense violence in entertainment, whether it's physical, sexual, or even the languaging, can be very violent. We see it all around us. And this, whenever, I notice this oftentimes more so within families, but the readiness to share news about loved ones when they're in pain. It's like, phone calls. Oh my gosh, of course, because they're concerned and we love them. But why don't we ever think to call our loved ones when we're wanting to celebrate something? Why don't we talk about the celebrations as much? Because there's this underlying resonance with pain and suffering. And then you put on top of that, we're not supposed to get too big for our britches, right? We're not supposed to celebrate ourselves or our achievements or the things that we're joyful about. So those two, sorry, go ahead.
We're not supposed to be too happy.
Yeah, we're not supposed to be too happy.
You're a Pollyanna, you must not be seeing what's bad in the world,
Right.
Living in this fantasy world up here.
Yeah.
And the news,
so it's
the news sharing the negative.
Always. So I think that like that's a really insidious program and conditioning that we have, that within the ascension process, that's all about breaking it down, throwing it out, because we can't raise our frequency and carry all of that suffering with us.
And as we understand how powerful we are as creators
Mm-hmm.
ourselves, made in the image of the creator means we are creators too. We are
Right.
co-creators here. So
Right.
what does that mean? Do you really believe that? And I think we're learning to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if that really is true,
Yep.
it doesn't
Yeah.
mean we don't see what's wrong in the world. We don't have to create more of it. And
Right.
exactly, the vibration and the frequency is such a huge factor as well to us tapping into that, and
Mm-hmm.
the science, learning about the science that literally our intentions are changing the makeup of our cells. Our
Yes.
intentions, thoughts are literally creating matter.
Yes.
See this, the that we see is birth of those events, and that's really hard for us to grasp. I think you just got paused, but it's really hard for us to grasp because all we see is this physicality. But
Right.
again, the
Right.
awakening process moves us into that other reality, that other understanding where we can actually create from that realm and live in
Yes.
that realm and be present in that realm and start to see through the matrix, really.
Yeah, yeah, and that's definitely the teachings that I've been getting for this last few months. And they're challenging because it's an edge for me. It's like it's pushing me to have this next level faith and trust. That okay, you mean if I play with these energies, then I'm actually going to be able to access more spaciousness and more.
Exactly.
And, and it's happening though. I mean, like I'm watching it happen and I'm still going, okay, is that next shoe going to drop? Like, am I really going to be able to maintain this and sustain this? But I've been saying that for the last year. So I think that like now I'm sort of like at the place where I have to start like really embracing it and knowing that this is this next level reality that I have
Yeah.
co-created through intention and focusing my thoughts and my emotions in the highest alignment possible, and really working with the higher energies, coming into our planet and into our hearts if we're open to receive.
Yeah.
So it's happening. Like we are seeing that we are co-creators for sure.
And I love what Abraham Hicks also says, that the universe will prove to you that what you believe is true. I mean, he doesn't say it
Mm-hmm.
in that those words, but
Right.
what you believe does manifest.
Yep.
And so we have to understand how it works,
Mm-hmm.
not just hang on to, but I've seen that happen in my life, so it is true. Well,
Mm-hmm.
yes, because you created it.
Right.
And you can create something different.
Right.
Lucy says that that's the story of her life, people telling her you're just too happy. Me too.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's a good way to be.
I'm finally getting
I
okay with
know.
it myself.
I know.
You know what? I just feel good most of the time. And I have my issues and I have my
Sure.
freakouts. You
Right.
can ask my
Right. Well,
husband.
and I love how I remember back when I was in my 20s, right? Like I think I was just getting sober, and I remember I was in my early 20s and somebody had come up and said to me after like an AA meeting or something. He was like, "You are so militant." And I actually didn't even know what he meant by that. but but it took me a while to realize that part of it is I was so angry. Like I was so angry. I've got my little scar, my scowl line here to show like that was who I was. And I just don't even know that person anymore. Thankfully she healed quite a bit, and now, in my 50s I've overcome a lot of that. but that's part of the journey and that's part of the work. And that was what I could have kept creating had I mean, there was a lot of grace involved for me, for sure. But had I kept making some of those choices and believing that that reality was all that there was for me.
Right, right. So I want to cross over into the light language a little bit because we're running out of time.
Great.
But Lotus leads light language activations, and this has always fascinated me because I, again, grew up in the church, and I grew up in the portion of the church where speaking in tongues was a normal thing. So I've been doing that since I was 8 years old, and you know, it has a certain connotation in the church, and a certain they feel like they own that. You know, they in the spirit-filled churches, they feel they own the speaking in tongues. But when I started meeting other people outside of the church who also experienced this surrender of your tongue, surrender of letting whatever wants to come through type feeling, it really radically shifted my understanding of spirit and God and love and all of these things, what really is happening there. So I don't know if you have your own explanation or how you see it. That would to tell us.
Yeah. So yes. So my kind of how I perceive it is, it has been part of the process of my awakening that started in 2000. And when I first received Shakti-Put from my guru back in 2001, you can read about it in Awakening from the Dream, a Kundalini memoir, which is about my first decade of the awakening process. When I first received Shakti-Put within the meditation, I was whispering in these languages that I had no idea what they were, but they were evoking such love and this deep emotion that as I was sitting there in that very first experience, just tears flowing down my face, and I felt like somehow I was so home. Never thought about it again. Never even had an experience of it in that way. And then in I can't remember, I don't know, 13, 14, 15, somewhere in there, I was doing my practice. So I work with the Shakti practice, which is a very deeply embodied practice where you allow that feminine force to literally move your body spontaneously. So it's a deep surrendering of your physical form and everything else into the divine. And so it's more of a tantric Kundalini practice. We could hold it with that, not the sexual tantric, but just experiential. And so one night it was winter solstice, and I was doing my practice, and you know, I'm kind of in this amazing flow, and then all of a sudden these languages just started bursting through. So I was a little freaked out. But I've had a lot of things like burst through my body and things like this. So I kind of am used to it, but every time something new happens, it's always a little startling. So I was a little freaked out. But then I said, okay, let's just take this easy and we'll try it again. And then all of a sudden it just took over again. And what I noticed for the very first quality that I noticed was I got super joyful. I mean, like unbounding joy, which was not necessarily my norm or my nature. I mean, I was happy, but I hadn't experienced joy like that. And so over the course of the next, I don't know, months, it was like any other energetic experience that I have had, that I had to keep surrendering to this energy that kept wanting to move through me, through speech. And then it started coming through when I was working on clients, when doing just Reiki. And then all of a sudden my Reiki stopped being just Reiki anymore. And the experiences they were having from the light language were like tenfold. And
Yeah.
so it just grew from that. And the healing levels and the expedient processes of my own next leveling, and I'd already been at this for over a decade. So this was like a whole other realm. And I've been speaking light language ever since. They will come in oftentimes spontaneously strongest during different planetary shifts, during different moon cycles, different energetic influxes that we're getting onto the planet. Um,
Yeah.
so they're very connected to the universal pulse, let's just say that, and the earth. And they change. As my frequency raises, the languages will change, which also means that the frequency that I'm able to transmit to others becomes stronger as well, and amplifies more quickly their field and their awakening process.
Yeah.
So,
It really becomes fun when you just
oh,
really allow your vessel that is worked through. I mean, and we can call these things strange or weird, and really it is just that we don't understand. And I've had some pretty amazing experiences as well with light language, and just letting myself go, letting words come through. There's times where I've been chanting something coming through, and my mind doesn't know what it means, but I have this
right.
feeling. And there was this one time that this was happening, and I just kept saying, Kiana Seowa, Kiana Seowa, Kiana Seowa. And I just, when I feel that feeling coming through, I don't question it. I'm just like, this feels aligned, this feels good,
Yeah.
this is what's supposed to be happening. And as I was doing that, I kept also hearing ancient wisdom. I felt like I was pulling ancient wisdom from the ground up into the earth, into myself. And so later on, I decided I'm going to look up the meaning of these words, and lo and behold, they meant ancient wisdom. I think in Hawaiian or something. I was just, with the sound of what they sounded like, I just looked at the languages. And I mean, things like that to me are just so fun. And
Right,
so
right.
be a part of this multi-dimensional world.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have the full understanding. That's not what it's about, having all of our explanations. It really is more about being in alignment, in that place of when you know the feeling of truth and love and oneness when you know that feeling, then you're weighing everything against that feeling.
Yep.
And that's how you know that you're being led where you need to go.
Yeah.
Because if we get caught up in dogmas and religions and things that say it's supposed to look this way and be this way, then we're restricting it, we're limiting it, and we can't experience the fullness of what it's meant to be here.
And the wonder, it's like the more that I surrender, the more in wonder I am. And sometimes I'm just, not sometimes, often I'm just blown away. It's like, okay, well, here we go on this ride. And it feels very unending. And I don't know most of the time. It's my soul that knows. Like, it's my heart that knows. And that's my dragonfly. It's like whatever makes my heart go pitter patter. This is my totem. That's what I follow. And if it doesn't go like that, then I wait or go a different direction. So, yeah. So the light language, it's really amazing. And it's like a love language. That's kind of how, like, it brings so much heart opening and higher love into our being.
And it bypasses the brain, and
Yeah.
in to bring back the scripture again, it says that it's used to edify and to pray what you don't know what you should pray. I mean, that's how it brings prayers through that you don't know to pray. So
Right.
I'm always
Right.
feeling that, and if it's always such a great tool to tap into that, to bring you into instant alignment.
Yep.
If you're feeling negative or depressed. Anyways, we could do an entire video on light
I
language.
know. I know. Right. We should.
But I want
I
to
know.
do.
Because you've got
I
all
would
this
love.
experience too, so it's really
Yeah, it
fun.
would be fun for us
And I
to.
like that we both come from very different
Yeah.
angles. I mean, you have this like I come from an atheist background, right? So
Yeah.
it's like my parents, most of like growing up, I didn't have any of this. So this has all been so fabulous. And then where we come together, I always love our conversations.
Yeah, it's fun. It's great, and to me, that just confirms even more that spirit, that God
Yep.
cannot be boxed. That it is not
Oh,
about one set of belief systems. God is in all things
it's so
and
true.
unifies things. And when I left the church, I didn't know where I was going to be left. I didn't know what what anything was. And I had experienced so many powerful experiences while I was there, that I was questioning, and I still have those powerful experiences now. And I won't go into my whole story, but I had one experience where I someone came over to the house who was a Sufi, and he pulled out the guitar and started playing. And the same spirit that I had always
Mhm.
in church was there. And here it was coming from a Sufi Muslim. And that was one of the huge confirmations to me that,
Mm.
yes, you can find God anywhere. And
Yeah.
it's been all of our division, all of our boxes that has limited us from
Yeah.
experiencing and seeing the fullness of love and God on the earth. And
Mhm.
as those come, we're going to start to see more of it.
Yeah. And in ourselves, which I think is where we're going. It's like, and that's one of the things that I love most about the light language is it really taps us into our own divinity within us that's always here. Yeah.
So will you end us on a little light?
Yes. I'd love to. I'd love to. Okay. So everybody just get comfortable and you can lay down or you can sit, whatever feels most comfortable, that you can just relax. There's nothing at all that you need to do other than just relax your body. Come into your heart space. And then we're just going to call in all of your wholeness, your holy wholeness of the highest light and love, all of your guides of the highest light and love, all in connection with divine source, God, Goddess, Mother, Father, to help bring you into your own perfect next level alignment with your heart and soul, with your joy and peace, and with your faith and trust, with ease and grace. And I call forth all of my guides of the highest light and love, my own holy wholeness, my highest selves of the highest light and love, all in connection with divine source, to help support each of you in receiving exactly what is right and true for you at this time, with ease and grace. So just take a deep breath in. Exhale, feel your buttocks and thighs resting. Feel your body is anchored and heavy. Feel that you're supported by Mother Earth. Alayane ushnut ikianat ushka lama alayane esatupum ishki mianusi anata apumalam alayane usapa kashonatukum lama kesum E patuko oshanat. E patikaroshkat eat. E patikaroshkat eat patikaroshkat apa patikaroshkat miano to kushanat kuskat eat. Whiskat patikaroshkat eat patikara alayane usupatik whiskat patikaroshkat eat patikaroshkat eat at. Oh, we patikaroshkat alayane utupat at uji at. Just allowing some clearing of any things that are holding each of you back, any programming that isn't serving for you, any pain or suffering that you are ready to let go of. Alakushanatukum. Ipatuko asamat it. Iawiskat it. Alawiskat it. Alakushanatukuiskat at. Uyat puushanat. Ui ama alayane eke isamianotopumeashan. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, ground down. Nyam yashanotumianehi. Neshnat yam yanyat Wishkat putkat wishkat alayana. Ushkat pirukat alayane aspatui. Patikarushkat amiani. I am Atushani. I am Yanushani. Am Yasun. Introducing your alignment. Alakashanatu alakoshe amyatumi patam. Your wholeness. Alakoshenatuku. Up to all the highest levels that you can access at this time with ease and grace. Alakashunatakum, alamakashan, amasun, activating at the heart center. Alameshunyaki, high heart, alameshunyanahu. Rashunat, with the third eye and the higher centers. Yasunat kushanat it ayamit. Deep breath in, exhale, ground down. Ilayane suhala mashani akialamiasum. Ilayane shunyapam. Ekalayane koshun aki. Alakashanatu aki. Alakehe alashanat aki. 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 Deep breath in, exhale. Cross your hands over your heart space. Inwardly, just saying into your own being, I love you, I love you, I love you. I honor you, I honor you, I honor you. Deep breath in, exhale. Just letting go. Feeling, sensing whatever is present. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Just make sure you drink a lot of water over the rest of the next day or two, and just listen to whatever your body guides you to, because the information will come mostly through your heart and your body. Thank you, Sharla. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so fun. You're welcome.
I'd love to do another video surrounding light language and helping others to tap into that as well.
Yep. I have like 5 clients now who all speak light language.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, you know, because they can do, now they're able to start activating their own healing and their own evolution, which is fabulous.
And I love hearing how the language does change, the sound,
Mm-hmm.
and I always feel it's bringing a different energy. It's bringing a different type of thing into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, this was great.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It was really fun. I always have fun getting together with you.
Thank God for online video chats, you know.
I agree. I agree. Yeah. Yeah. And thanks for everyone who received some light language and just, yeah, for
Thank you
tuning
everyone
in.
for being here. Well, I guess my phone died. Thank you, Lucy. I see you. I was going to turn my phone on to see who's here, but I can't right now. So, all of you, I'm sending you so much love, and we will see you next time. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.